Republicans have found themselves a little bit of a mess whenever it comes to corporations, having to both criticize company who cut business connections following January 6th and Georgia voting laws, but they're also defending the company wholesale against corporate tax rate.
Democratic strategist Roger Fisk and culture editor at The Federalist Emily Jashinsky are back to weigh in.
That's right. So, Roger, let me start with you. What do you make of this dynamic? I find it kind of hilarious, which is that at the very same time, you have the NRSC and others running ads saying that corporations are coming down on behalf of wokeness and all of this. Rick Scott, the head of the NRSC, is explicitly trying to make sure the corporate tax rate doesn't get raised. I mean, at a certain point, these are irreconcilable things now.
Call time must be very interesting for Rick Scott right now, I would imagine.
Explain what call time is for people who don't know.
When the chair of the NRSC or the DSCC carves out 10 or 15 hours a week to leave the Capitol and walk over to their national committees and bang through 15 or 20 calls that have been set up by their staff in order to build up their war chest for the coming cycle. When I was looking at McConnell when he said that, I was like, I'm going to guess that even as he's speaking, there's an email going out from one of these entities or his PAC or something or other saying you're expected, at X and Y restaurant, to listen to McConnell lament the involvement of CEOs in politics is essentially like listening to a burglar complain about a crime wave or something. There's a reason why the tax code, when you stack it up, like reaches up to the moon practically at this point. And it's not because Dr. McGillicuddy's General Store was pushing through, some kind of tax breaks for the depreciation of long-term durable goods that is in the back of his store or something like that. These are all manufactured line by line by the very people. And then all you have to do is go back to the clips of Senator McConnell when Citizens United was decided, and he was all about corporations being involved in politics, which he is to this day. So it just shines a bright light on that, and it's kind of interesting to play out. But it does add to the kind of the fratricidal element of the bigger, to the extent that there's a traditional Republican base left, fiscal discipline, small government, being the adult in the room when it comes to foreign policy, versus the more petulant kind of grievance-driven MAGA thing, which at least for folks on my side of the aisle is just fun to watch play out, because normally we're the circular firing squad.
Emily, my favorite line out of McConnell was when he quickly added, after saying that corporations should stay out of politics, he made clear to clarify, but they should continue giving contributions. The Chamber of Commerce is playing a really interesting role in this fight. They backed something like 20 Democratic frontliners for re-election in 2020. All of them, I think, pretty much lost. And so now the chamber is coming back to Republicans who they had fought against in the election, getting attacked as too woke, and yet still getting Republican help to keep corporate tax rates low. What is going on with the Chamber of Commerce inside of this fight?
It's totally a reckoning between the Republican Party and the Chamber of Commerce, which was a very powerful allyship, for years and years and years in our politics. And so for that to start splintering, and maybe we're just seeing cracks that will be papered over and everything will be repaired and get back to normal for the swamp standards. But, I actually don't know, because I think what we're witnessing is that the sort of like reckoning more broadly with the Republican Party and big business in real time. So we talked on the show earlier this week about J.D. Vance's interview with Tucker Carlson, where Tucker pressed him, Google is a private company. And J.D. Vance said, frankly, I don't care. And that went viral among conservatives. And so I don't know that, the online atmosphere totally translates. It absolutely isn't representative of the base more broadly. But the fact that that was animating for a lot of conservatives in conservative media is a huge, huge tell. And there has to be this conversation about how things personally, I think corporate tax cuts, keep jobs in the country and help employ people. But at the same time, you have to weigh that and say, well, should we be rewarding these companies that hate us on down the line? And that's the question that Republicans are now trying to balance. You have people like J.D. Vance, who's not yet been elected to any position, come down on that side of it. If J.D. Vance wins, and people like J.D. Vance win, I think you've seen like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio sort of then we could see that possibility of returning to normal totally evaporate,
Right.
and we would be looking at a true realignment.
Who the hell knows, guys? Okay, thank you both very much for joining us. Very insightful answers from you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll have more Rising for everybody right after this.